魔王リムルは覚醒していると見るべきか。
言い逃れなど
もういい。もう黙る。
After Clayman's defeat, Rimuru continues to attend Walpurgis, to which Leon Cromwell and Luminous Valentine leave early. Rimuru gains the ability to replicate dishes and refuses to let Milam Nava drink wine, due to him thinking that she's too young for it. Rimuru returns home where he is greeted by the citizens, including Diablo. While having matcha pudding, Rimuru finds out that Veldora told everything to Diablo. He learns that Diablo had healed Falmouth's king and his subordinates, who were previously tortured by Shion for threatening Tempest. The three then become Diablo's servants, and they all travel back to Falmouth along with Yume, Grucius, and Murin. Meanwhile, the nobles in Falmouth are unable to heal the king. Once Diablo's group arrives, they present their story of the defeat of Falmouth's army and Veldora's revival. This shocks the nobles as the Western Holy Church claim that Veldora was long gone, until Rosin points out that a true dragon can never be destroyed as they can be reborn. They also learn that the Dryads helped Rimuru bargain with Veldora to calm his wrath. This leads the nobles to see that attacking Tempest was a bad idea. After healing the king using one of Rimuru's potions, Diablo has them choose to either ally with Tempest or continue the war, all while warning them to not double-cross Rimuru, or else. After learning of this, Rimuru leaves Diablo to handle the situation. Laplace informs Yuki and the rest of the moderate Harlequin alliance of Clayman's death, and that their plan to take down Rimuru has ended in failure, to which he and Footman almost get into a fight. Now, seeing that his plans for world domination is being compromised, Yuki considers planning revenge, but also decides to lay low for a while. Meanwhile, at the Western Holy Empire, Hinata recalls her past, including her confrontation with Roy, his twin brother Louis, and Luminous Valentine. Louis later informs her of Roy's death, Veldora's revival, Falmouth's defeat, and that Tempest is still intact. Hinata realizes that Rimuru is still alive and tricked her into letting him escape, but suspects that she's being manipulated due to information that she received from an Eastern merchant. They later deliver the news to Luminous, who, after she explains what happened in Walpurgis, warns them not to engage Veldora or Rimuru, knowing how powerful they are now and that she has not declared them enemies. Also, she reveals that although Rimuru technically isn't evil, he presumably still holds a grudge towards Hinata for trying to destroy him and his nation. Meanwhile, in Falmouth, the king holds a meeting, and after learning of the events that occurred in Walpurgis, Blumen's allegiance with Tempest, and what the Western Holy Church planned to do next, they eventually decide to form an alliance with Tempest after all. The king also steps down from his throne and passes it to his brother. In Tempest, Diablo informs Rimuru that Falmouth has formed a peace treaty with Tempest, and that a civil war will break out due to the king stepping down and having his brother take over, which will eventually allow Yume to take the throne. Diablo also reports that the church may be planning to take action to this. Afterwards, the residents of Eurazania move into Tempest for the time being, accompanied by 2 of the 3 Beast Katirs. Gabble returns from his mission, who also hands Rimuru a letter from Milam, who intends to invite guests to give her cooking lessons during her next visit. Geld later returns and reveals that there were complications during his mission, so the two spend time with each other at a bar. Rigurd soon reveals that Blumund has formed a relationship with Tempest. The Oni later inform Rimuru of the dangerous Kusha Mountains, inhabited by the Teng. Benimaru decides to go speak to them alongside Albus, leading everyone to suspect that he has a crush on her. Hakuro later tells Rimuru about the dark elves that reside in Clayman's domain, and Rimuru convinces Hakuro to keep it a secret. During another meeting, Rimuru decides to invite more people to his nation and expand his territory. After Rimuru hears of dangerous monsters that lurk around the road to Tempest, Vesta and Kaijin reveal that they have planned to place anti-magic barriers around the road to keep visitors safe. Veldora is hoping to unleash his aura, but the others insist that he doesn't, as it could kill them. However, Diablo warns Rimuru that he cannot contain his aura for long. Rimuru tasks Geld with building Milim a castle and learns from Diablo that Edmaris is teaching Yume how to properly act like a noble, and Rahim is on his way to the Holy Western Empire to deliver his message. Recalling his encounter with Hinata, Rimuru begins to wonder who is the mastermind behind Falmouth's attack, Hinata's attempt to kill him, and Clayman's motives. Suspecting that a merchant is helping these masterminds, Rimuru has his subordinates hunt down the merchant. Meanwhile, at the Western Holy Empire, Hinata begins a meeting. Hinata, Nicholas Spertus, and the 10 Great Saints talk about the revival of Veldora, Rimuru's motive, and Falmouth's downfall. While starting to regret not listening to Rimuru in the first place, Hinata also suspects that the Eastern merchants visiting Tempest and the Holy Western Empire are up to something. She also explains that Luminous has ordered them to not attack Rimuru and his nation, but the Saints aren't happy with this. After revealing Rimuru's origins and the merchant's deception, she decides to negotiate with Rimuru despite the Saints' concerns. Rahim then arrives to deliver his message. 3 of the 7 luminaries, followers of Luminous, appear to listen to this. Rahim then explains how dangerous Rimuru is and the truth behind the defeat of Falmouth's army. He also displays a crystal ball that shows Rimuru challenging her, which, to Rahim's shock, was not his intended message. Despite having suspicions, Hinata agrees to challenge Rimuru. The luminaries support her decision and provide her with a powerful sword called the Dragon Buster. Hinata then leaves to confront Rimuru. Meanwhile, at Tempest, Rimuru learns that Hinata is coming, accompanied by some of the Saints. Rimuru is confused that his message didn't play out well, but Diablo appears and reveals that Rahim was murdered. Rimuru informs his subordinates of Rahim's death, Hinata's approach, and the forces gathering in Falmouth to eliminate the demons seemingly responsible for killing Rahim. They request the help of Adelman for more information about the Western Holy Church. Adelman tells them about the 7 luminaries, the 10 Great Saints, and Hinata. Diablo also explains the current situation going on in Falmouth, leading Rimuru to decide to take action against this. Upon learning that Hinata is bringing an army with her and will be arriving in 2 weeks, Rimuru prepares to face them. Albus and Sophia also decide to join in on the conflict. Meanwhile, it is revealed that one of the 10 Great Saints and the merchant who manipulated Hinata earlier are working for the Rozzo family, led by Granville and his granddaughter Maribel, who seek to take out both Hinata and Rimuru. Rimuru recalls his first encounter with Hinata and wonders what she'll do. Meanwhile, Hinata learns that 4 of the Great Saints have followed her, and she reluctantly lets them tag along. Arriving in Bloomond, they notice how much the city has changed, leading them to suspect that Tempest had something to do with this. As they continue their journey to Tempest, they are amazed by the road's structure and how friendly the monsters in Tempest are. While stopping for a drink of water, the group begin to see that Rimuru is not as much of a threat as they thought. Rimuru soon learns that Hinata is close. Meanwhile, the 7 luminaries have sent 2 other saints with an army to destroy Rimuru and his city, but they are ambushed by Tempest's forces. This leads Rimuru to take the situation as a real challenge. After Hinata learns from Nicholas that the other 3 saints, the 3 battle sages, are taking part in Falmouth's civil war, Rimuru interferes with her telepathic call before it is cut off. Meanwhile, the Holy Empire's army is overwhelmed just as Rimuru and his subordinates arrive. When Hinata's group arrives at the battlefield, she notices how powerful the monsters are, and believing that Rimuru truly does want to fight her, prepares to face the monster leader. As Luminous cuddles the Holy Ark, which contains an adult version of Chloe, Lewis and Gunther inform her of Hinata and the 7 luminaries' actions. Meanwhile, back in Tempest, Cheyenne faces off against Leonard and Guard, the leaders of the army, who place a holy field around her. However, Shion reveals that she is a wicked Oni, and proves to be too strong for them, although she is ordered to not kill them. Though Leonard admits defeat, Guard refuses to, until Shion destroys the holy field. Leonard begins to grow suspicious of the situation after noticing that Guard is acting differently. While their subordinates split up to fight each other, Rimuru and Hinata fight each other one-on-one. Seeing that Rimuru is stronger than before, and her skill-stealing ability has no effect on him, Hinata takes on a much stronger form to combat him, but without using the Dragon Buster. She instead resorts to using her own weapon. Rimuru gains a new ability that allows him to predict Hinata's attacks. The fight ends in a draw, and Rimuru suspects that his message to Hinata has been tampered with. After surviving Hinata's final attack by sacrificing a previous ability to gain a new one, the two immediately become friends, but then realize that the Dragon Buster is a rigged trap as it suddenly releases a deadly attack that strikes Hinata. In Falmouth, Damrada, the merchant responsible for manipulating Hinata, analyses Rimuru, Edmaris, and Edward's motives, while preparing to leave as the demon who supposedly killed Rahim is too powerful for him to deal with. Diablo is observing this from the skies, and sees that one of the 3 battle sages is leaving with the army, while the other 2 are with Edward. He then has Hakuro deal with the army, all while trying not to kill them. Edward's army is quickly defeated by Rimuru's forces, forcing them to retreat. Diablo then confronts Edward and the 2 battle sages, and creates a force field around them to keep innocents out of the way. He demands that they make peace with Yume, but Edward refuses as he is aware of Diablo's actions in Falmouth. Diablo nevertheless challenges them and easily defeats Edward's men, also revealing his true nature, leaving only the 2 battle sages to face him. They too prove to be no match for him, resulting in one of the battle sages fleeing. The remaining battle sage eventually realizes that Diablo is innocent, but 3 of the 7 luminaries arrive and attack Diablo's force field in an attempt to eliminate witnesses. Meanwhile, Hinata is gravely injured by the Dragon Buster's attack, while Rimuru tries to save her life, albeit unsuccessfully, as only holy magic can heal her. 2 of the 7 luminaries arrive, and after restraining the 4 saints to prevent them from healing Hinata, intend to destroy Hinata for seemingly disobeying their orders. The luminaries prepare to exact punishment on Hinata for her apparent disobedience. Leonard realizes that he had been tricked, but is stabbed by Guard, whom Rimuru realizes is actually one of the luminaries in disguise, having killed the real Guard. Diablo contacts Rimuru and reveals that it was they who killed Rahim and framed him for it, and also altered Rimuru's message so to manipulate him and Hinata into fighting each other. The Saints realize that the luminaries are the real masterminds behind the war. Rimuru orders his subordinates to kill the luminaries, but they prove to be strong opponents. The luminaires release a powerful attack to wipe out Rimuru, Hinata, and their subordinates, but Rimuru blocks it with a copy of a previously sacrificed ability. The luminaries then use the same attack that Hinata previously used on Rimuru in their first fight, but this attack also fails to defeat Rimuru and Hinata, as he manages to defend them both with a new ability. The luminaries decide to let Luminous deal with them, but the latter personally arrives with Lewis. After Luminous heals Hinata, Hinata recalls her unhappy childhood, how she entered the Central World and gained her skill-stealing ability, and how she met Shizu. As Hinata heals Leonard, Luminous kills the luminaries for their corruptive actions. Meanwhile, the reporters realize Diablo's innocence, though Diablo does not forgive Edward for his earlier actions, and in turn, Edward decides to pass the throne to Yume in exchange for protection. The luminaries unleash a powerful attack on Diablo, but he turns the tables and kills them instead. Back at the Holy Western Empire, Nicholas confronts the last luminary, having learned of their scheme, and kills him with a magical amulet. Unbeknownst to him, the luminary survived and is actually Granville. He and Maribel realize that their plan failed and start planning their next move against Rimuru. Meanwhile, Veldora accidentally reveals that Luminous is a demon lord in front of everyone, resulting in the two fighting as a result of Luminous having a long-held grudge against him. In the aftermath, the group enjoy the public baths and Japanese foods. Damrada speaks with Granville and Maribel regarding Diablo's presence and their failed attempt to defeat Hinata and Rimuru. However, Granville is still determined to eliminate Rimuru. Meanwhile, Rimuru speaks with Hinata and Luminous regarding past events that led to their conflicts along with Clayman and Damrada's motives. Luminous explains the origin of the 7 luminaries, their true intentions, and their connection with Clayman, and that Granville was once a hero who previously fought her. Rimuru also suspects that Yuki is the one pulling the strings. Afterwards, they decide to have 2 of the saints remain in Tempest and build a church in the city to symbolize their alliance. Damrada later speaks with Yuki, who had assisted the Rozzo family with their scheme, making the latter see that his revenge plan wasn't successful. Damrada leaves and Yuki prepares to make his next move. Rimuru decides to host a festival to celebrate the opening of Rimuru City and his country being accepted as a nation. He starts by seeing how Vesta and Gabel have been doing with the healing potions. Next, he and Shuna pay a visit to see Yoshida, a chef who is also an Otherworlder, who requests a special dish from them in exchange for his allegiance. Meanwhile, Viscount Lord Kazakh speaks with Guard Mjol Mil regarding elf slaves, leading Guard to see that he's a criminal. Rimuru disrupts the meeting, to Kazakh's annoyance. He then considers taking Rimuru as a slave, but a disgusted Guard kicks him out in retaliation and ends his business with him, leading Kazakh to swear revenge. He and Rimuru talk about Kazakh's motives and the upcoming festival. Rimuru has plans to turn his city into a resort with many fun activities for people. After learning about the theater and arena in the Kingdom of Ingracia, Rimuru also decides to set up his own arena in Tempest. Guard agrees to help out of gratitude for Rimuru saving his life earlier. Later, Rimuru talks to Fuz, who is emotionally overwhelmed by the recent events, especially the truth behind the 7 luminaries' real intentions. Rimuru passes some invitations to him to give to the King of Blumund. Fuse also tells him about what Yuki was recently doing. Rimuru decides to invite him too, along with Milim. Dwargo and his subordinates, Henrietta, Jane, and Vaughn, learn of Rimuru's recent actions and his evolution to Demon Lord. They also receive an invitation to Tempest's upcoming festival as Dwargo ponders about Rimuru's motives. Meanwhile, back in Tempest, Rimuru is preparing for the festival and comes across Ramirez, Beretta, and Trainee. They have left her old labyrinth and are trying to establish a new home in Tempest. Rimuru decides to build a labyrinth somewhere under the arena that is still in construction for Ramirez to live in, and also create a dungeon in that labyrinth as an attraction for adventurers. Ramirez also decides to hire the lycanthropes living in where they plan to build the labyrinth for help, as well as move their homes inside it. At the sorceress dynasty of Thalion, the kingdom's ruler Elmesia has also received an invitation to the festival. 3 months ago, she sent Errol to form a peace agreement with Tempest, even though he is concerned by the fact that it is a monster nation. Learning of Yoshida's connection with Rimuru, along with Rimuru's plans, Elmesia deducts that Rimuru is actually an Otherworlder who came from Earth like Shizu, Hinata, and Yuki, except he was reincarnated. The arena in Tempest is almost finished while the dungeon is in construction. Rimuru visits Kurobe for weapons to put in the dungeon, to which it is revealed that he had become a skilled craftsman after Rimuru evolved into a demon lord. Rimuru is hopeful that the dungeon and arena will make Tempest famous, as Kurobe provides Rimuru with a new sword, though it is not finished yet. Later, Rimuru tells Veldora about the dungeon and has him live there as its strongest guardian and master, so he can harmlessly release his aura from within. He then brings Veldora to the unfinished arena and sets up a room for him inside the dungeon with Ramirez's help, along with a private room where he can read manga. The dungeon is finished in about a week, outfitted with 100 transforming rooms and save points. Ramirez reveals her creation, a bracelet that can teleport people back to the beginning of the dungeon if they are defeated. But only one person can use it, and the bracelet itself can only be used once. In the final room, Veldora finally unleashes his aura, and his aura travels across the dungeon. Rimuru warns Veldora to only release his aura inside the dungeon, and also has Beretta serve Ramirez from now on. Afterwards, the group develop traps and obstacles for the dungeon. When Ramirez cannot put in terrain effects, Milim shows up to help. Milim gets into a fight with Ramirez over the fact that the latter now works for Rimuru, and that she too wants to help. After deducting that Milim snuck out of her domain without Carrion and Frey knowing, Rimuru has her capture some elemental dragons to put in the dungeon, as well as help finish with its construction. Guard visits Tempest for a tour, and after learning that he was attacked by a monster, they suspect that it was sent by Kazakh. During a meeting, Rimuru is warned that the tribes of the Jura Forest are coming to visit and may revolt against him if they don't deem him worthy to own the place. Around this time, Falmouth has collapsed and a new kingdom will take its place as Yume becomes its new king. The next day, the tribes arrive. The first to visit are the Lizardmen, where their leader Abiru is informed of how his son is doing. The last group to visit are Traya and Doris. After meeting up with Ramirez and Trainee, Rimuru decides to have them work for Ramirez as well as help manage the dungeon. On the second day, Rimuru meets two rival tribes, the Bovoids and the Equinoids, who both want to serve Rimuru so they can take each other down. Their argument is disrupted by something breaking through the barrier around the city. It revealed to be three brothers who are the sons of another demon lord. When they challenge Xion, Rimuru has them fight in the arena. After Xion easily defeats them, they reveal that Degrul is their father, and he had sent them to Tempest to train under Rimuru. Xion agrees to become their mentor, and the Bovoids and the Equinoids both swear loyalty to Rimuru after watching the fight. The last visiting group are a tribe of elves. Rimuru provides them with a place to live in the dungeon, and after learning that some of their kind never returned, he suspects that Kazakh is to blame and sends Sue to investigate. On the third day, Geld and Diablo have returned from Falmouth as Rimuru prepares to meet the arriving group, the Tengu. Raphael tells Rimuru about the Tengu, and the female Tengu that's visiting is named Momiji. Sometime earlier, Benimaru and Albus were sent by Rimuru to negotiate with the Teng, but find a barrier around their village. Only Benimaru and Albus are allowed in, where they meet Momiji. Benimaru wishes to pass through the village and build a tunnel through the mountains to Thalion. Momiji does not like that idea because the mountains are sacred to them. After she insults Albus, they get into a fight before Benimaru intervenes. Kaida, Momiji's mother, arrives and stops their bickering. She explains her history with the ogres and a human named Araki Byakuya, who passed away years ago. She also reveals that Hakuro is her husband, making him Momiji's father. Kaidi also proposes that Momiji should be engaged to Benimaru in exchange for the Teng's allegiance with Tempest, but they are both hesitant, as Momiji wishes to win Benimaru's heart first. Returning to the present, Momiji makes a deal with Rimuru while fearing that he may want to wage war with them due to his connection with Frey, who once tried to take over the Tengu's domain, but she agrees to form an alliance with Rimuru after clearing up the misunderstanding with Frey. She gets embarrassed when the letter that her mother sent to Rimuru reveals her feelings. Hakuro returns from Falmouth and meets his daughter for the first time while agreeing to improve her fighting skills, and is also supportive of her arranged engagement to Benimaru. Rimuru introduces Guard, who's now in charge of Tempest's finances, to his subordinates and explains his plans for the upcoming festival. After learning about the overgrowing trees in the dungeon, Ranga suggests having the fox demon that Rimuru previously rescued from Clayman to deal with it as well as become one of the bosses of the dungeon. Rimuru names her Kumara. Sue informs the group that Kazakh and his men have been arrested and explains that the Lightspeed Hero Masayuki is the one who stopped his operations. Meanwhile, Masayuki and his group are on their way to Tempest. Flashbacks reveal that Masayuki is also an Otherworlder. After transporting to the Central World, he developed a special power that allows him to fight strong foes, and eventually formed a group of heroes that includes himself and 3 other members. Yuki later requests for him to take down a slave trading company called Orthrus in the Kingdom of Balakia. Gosel, one of Orthus's leaders, tries to make him look like a criminal after he discovers his true motives, but his motives foil this ploy and heal the surviving victim as a witness to the king. With the king's assistance, Masayuki destroys Orthus's operations and is asked to return the rescued elves to the Jura forest, which by now has become Rimuru's territory. Returning to the present, Masayuki is doubtful that Rimuru is of any threat, and although his party is thinking about challenging Rimuru, he decides to see what Rimuru is like. Learning of his approach, Rimuru's subordinates intend to challenge him. Many visitors arrive for the festival. The first to arrive is King Blumund, who is grateful that Rimuru took care of Falmouth and makes a deal with him. The next to visit is Dwargo, who heard of his fight with Hinata along with the Western Holy Church's connections with Tempest, to which Rimuru tells him about the Seven Luminaries plot. Yume is the third to visit along with Murin, who by now has become Yume's wife, and that she and Yume are now the new rulers of the new kingdom. Accompanying them are Grucius and Edgar, the son of Falmouth's former king. Rimuru later meets Yuki, and they talk about their previous conflicts. Yuki agrees to go to the festival and introduces Kagali to Rimuru. Kagali reveals that she had recently explored some old ruins discovered near de Gruel's domain, while Rimuru tells them about a discovery that Clayman made in the ruins. Afterwards, Rimuru and Yuki visit Class S, who are also eager to go to the festival upon being invited. After meeting up with Tis, Rimuru teleports them all there. Rimuru gives the students an amulet that allows to them buy free stuff for the festival, but then learns that Masayuki has arrived and goes to greet them. Though Masayuki's group want to fight Rimuru, Masayuki, Rimuru, and Yuki try to talk them out of it. Rimuru then makes a deal. If they can win tomorrow's battle tournament, then he will fight them. Despite having doubts, Masayuki is pressured by his comrades into accepting the challenge. Many guests gather in a ballroom in Tempest, where Rimuru begins the festival eve. Geld and Hakuro cut up a giant, monstrous fish to make sushi. Hinata and Yuki join Rimuru for a meal. A large dragon appears above Tempest, indicating the arrival of Elmasia. Dwargon tells Rimuru about the history of Elmasia and Thalion, leading Rimuru to be cautious of her. As Elmasia arrives, she tries to charm Rimuru with her powers, but it is blocked by Raphael. She requests a private meeting with Rimuru later. Guard later informs Rimuru of the motivations of some arriving merchants. Milim, Frey, and Carrion then arrive for the festival, along with the Dragon Faithful, while Maribel is shown to have also attended. After Rimuru accidentally insults Frey, he apologizes to avoid a bad outcome, while Carrion finds this amusing and is punished by Frey. The next day, the festival itself is about to begin, as Rimuru, again dressed as a king, gives his speech and announces that he has no intention of harming humans, while warning them that he will treat them with hostility if they do consider him a threat as the festival officially starts. Class S is surprised to learn that Rimuru is the king of the monster nation, while Tis is too shocked to wake up upon learning of this. Hinata then arrives, and Rimuru introduces her to Class S and explains her history. She agrees to watch over Class S as she reminds them of Shizu. Hinata also reveals that Luminous is also coming since she was also invited. A concert begins, starting with an orchestra led by a young halfling named Takt, followed by a duet performed by Shuna and Cheyenne. The next event involves a potion experiment demonstrated by Vesta and Gabiru, which astounds Jeff. Rimuru attends a meeting with Luminous, who requests cultural exchange after listening to the concert and gifts him with a new power. And in return, Rimuru allows her to have her researchers do business in Tempest. Later, Guard reveals that they are low on money, and the coins they have are of no help. They suspect that someone is trying to sabotage them. Rimuru then forms a plan to deal with the financial problem, but they decide to continue enjoying the festival first. The next day, the martial arts tournament is about to begin. Sometime earlier, Rimuru makes plans for the tournament and has Cheyenne, Diablo, and Benimaru become part of a group called the Elite Four, but forbids them from entering the competition as they would easily win. he also decides that whoever wins the tournament will either become the 4th member of the Elite Four or will be allowed to fight him. As the tournament starts, Masayuki, Jinrai, a warrior named Gaie, the leaders of the Bovoids and the Equinoids, and Lion Mask, who is actually Carrion in disguise, pass the preliminaries. Gobta and Geld are also signed up for the tournament. Rimuru starts the competition and promises to fight whoever wins. The Bovoid and Equinoid leaders fight each other, with the Bovoid leader winning. Masayuki and Jinrai are to fight each other, but Jinrai forfeits to ensure Masayuki wins. As Gaia and Gobta prepare to fight each other, Gaia reveals his arrogant side, which angers Diablo. Though he overwhelms Gobta, the latter wins with Ranga's help. Geld and Lion Mask fight each other next, with Lion Mask winning and Geld fairly admitting defeat. In the semi-finals, Masayuki prepares to fight the Bovoid leader next, but after he gives out a speech, the Bovoid leader agrees to forfeit and challenge him later in the dungeon. Lion Mask and Gobta are up next, and although Lion Mask has the upper hand, Gobta wins with the assistance of Rimuru and Ranga, while convincing Lion Mask to forfeit. In the final round, Gobta faces Masayuki next, but the tournament is put on hold until tomorrow as everyone celebrates with a meal. But Rimuru becomes concerned about the upcoming fight between Gobta and Masayuki. Dwargo later comes to talk to Rimuru. Rimuru reveals that he called Dwargo over to deal with the financial problem. Elmacia also joins in on the conversation and agrees to help with the problem, providing him with a large amount of gold. During their conversation, they suspect that someone from the Western nations is responsible for the financial problem. Elmacia enacts a pact between her and Rimuru, and questions him about Diablo due to her being cautious of him. Rimuru promises to stop him should he ever go rogue, to Elmacia's surprise. They nevertheless form an alliance afterwards. The next day, the tournament continues with Gobta and Masayuki preparing to face each other, but Masayuki's fear begins to grow on him. Gobta reveals that he has gained the ability to fuse with Ranga, but he messes up and misses Masayuki, hitting the wall instead due to him being too inexperienced with his new skill. Despite winning by default, Masayuki decides to forfeit as he believes that he isn't ready to face Rimuru just yet, though the audience still cheer for him. Rimuru has Sue invite him to lunch later. Gobta is deemed the winner of the competition, while Masayuki accepts Rimuru's invitation. Milim decides to help train Gobta and Ranga so they can handle their new form better. During Rimuru's meeting with Masayuki, he learns of Masayuki's true identity as an Otherworlder, and the latter learns that Rimuru is a human reincarnated as a slime. Because he doesn't enjoy being a hero, he decides to become Rimuru's subordinate. The two also discuss Rimuru's plan to open the dungeon to the public. On the 3rd day of the festival, the dungeon is officially open to the public. The groups that are taking part in it are Team Great Lightning, Cabal's Party, and Team Lightspeed, who have been given a map for the dungeon. Gai also takes part in the event in hopes of humiliating Rimuru, to Diablo and Shion's annoyance. 4 dryads are tasked with observing the 4 groups and items are being sold to help them in the dungeon so they cannot die. Guard also demonstrates the power of the resurrection bracelet by going into the dungeon and having Gaia slay him, though Rimuru is angered by Gaia's ruthless actions. When Team Great Lightning falls into a trapdoor and Cabal's Party is able to easily avoid the traps, Rimuru is annoyed with Ramirez for modifying the rooms that he designed and giving Cabal's Party an unfair advantage after being bribed by Eren. Team Great Lightning is eliminated several times while Cabal's Party have made it to the 2nd floor, where they defeat some bat monsters and obtain a sword before returning to the entrance with a magical whistle. Team Lightspeed confront and defeat a spider monster, obtaining a sword before using their magic whistle to return to the entrance. Gay arrives too late to gain the treasure that Team Lightspeed got and demands that the Dryad accompanying him to bring the boss back early, but she cannot do so. Offended, he decides to no longer follow the rules and attacks the Dryad in response, but she overpowers him, disables his bracelet, sending him back to the entrance. Rimuru then announces that whoever can beat the entire dungeon can challenge him. A party is then held afterwards. A group of merchants gather around Guard, demanding payment from Rimuru, as they will only accept dwarven money. Duke Muese, who is in league with the Rosso family, offers to pay them himself so he can gain Rimuru's trust and bring Tempest down from within, but Rimuru shows up with the money he got from El Mesia to pay them, while Cheyenne and Diablo grow suspicious of Muese. When the merchants expect further payment, Rimuru refuses because of their earlier criticism of Tempest, as well as only taking dwarven coins, ruining Muese's plan. Rimuru later has a meeting with their subordinates and allies regarding the earlier meeting with the merchants, having known of Muese's scheme and the train that Rimuru plans to build. Momiji, seeing why Rimuru wanted to construct a tunnel through the mountains, agrees to the idea. Dwargo questions Rimuru about the projected screens used for the tournament, and Elmesia enters a trading business with Rimuru. Rimuru and Guard also talk to Yuki and Hinata regarding the dungeon, the latter deciding to have some of the Holy Knights do some training in it while attracting outsiders to try it out due to Veldora growing bored of waiting for someone to face him. The Rosso family learn of Muese's failure, but they still continue their plans to take over the central world and destroy Tempest. Later, Rimuru tells his subordinates of Yuki and Clayman's connections with modern Harlequin Alliance and the Eastern merchants, and decides to be ready for their actions in the future. The next day, some of the visitors leave while others remain in Tempest. A month later, Tempest receives a letter from the Council of the West.